Good morning. It is Tuesday morning, and Tuesday mornings are for a mindset shift. Would you agree? Mindset is everything in our life. Mindset is definitely everything. So let's go through a mindset shift today. And what I want to talk about today is really my greatest lifelong lesson. So I recently read about this in A Course in Miracles, and I think this is really the journey for everybody. Every spirit seeks consciousness of ourselves. We seek to know our origin, who we really are from the inside out, tap into that, and then live our soul purpose. So I just want you to know what I'm going through today is I'm teaching myself right now. This is a lifelong journey, and if we can move together to achieve what I'm about to talk about today, not only will it create an amazing life for us and the life for all of us around us, but maybe we can shift the consciousness of the planet. How cool is that? So here's a question. Which world are you living in? Which world are you living in? So this sounds like a very odd question because there seems to be only one world that we're living in, and it's obvious because that's the world that we're seeing every day. But actually, that's also the world that we're seeing with our five senses, interpreting with our mind, and not necessarily living from our heart. So let's look at the difference. Now, let me ask you a question. And this, is very common. Is it possible for two people to see the same thing, see the same event or condition, and have two completely different, even opposite perspectives? You know what that is? Because just by gender alone, if you're in a relationship with someone of the opposite gender, just male and female, and we see the whole world differently, it begins right there, right? So actually, this is very common. Now, a great example is I have a buddy that worked in the police force for 28 years. So they'd go to either an accident, a murder scene, whatever, and they'd have 10 different witnesses, and his job was find out what happened. So he would go interview 10 different people, and all the time he had 10 different perspectives. Hey, Gwen, thank you for being here. 10 different perspectives. Like, what a mind blower. And they have to put together the pieces. So how can 10 people see the same thing, have 10 different perspectives, yet what really happened? Like, that's what we want to know. So the truth is, we only see from our own perspective. When we see something, it comes from our own individual perception. So check this out. Now, if we understand and know that means if you have 30 people in a room, I was in the gym this morning, there was at least 30 people there. There's 30 different worlds happening all at the same time. How about that? Does that bend your mind a little bit? So imagine how many worlds are going on, but all that matters is your perception of your world. So here's what I got. Here's a quote from A Course in Miracles. What you see reflects your thinking, and your thinking reflects your choice of what you want to see. How about that? So what you're thinking is a choice of what you want to see. Well, you can say, well, there's things happening in my life that I don't want to see them. Well, how does that happen? Well, what we see is based on our values that we create, that we formed based on our past experiences. So what's that mean? We create values that are important to us that either give us pleasure or avoid pain. So we're going through life either avoiding pain or going through pleasure that's based on our past experiences that give us values that we perceive. So when our values of what we see outside of us are enforced, we're happy. If there's a contraindication in our values, we feel vulnerable to pain, which is fear-based. So when something happens that's in contradiction to our values, we get upset, maybe we get angry. Angry is an emotion that empowers us. But when we feel vulnerable, we are potentially hurt. That is a fear-based emotion. And what do? If we want to be empowered, then we lash out in pain. We lash out in anger. And so that's what happens. We're either avoiding pain or seeking pleasure. So when we look around in the world, we're seeing are our values being met. The problem is when you move into fear, then you eclipse love. So love eclipsed is imagined. It's imagined. Therefore, seeing and experiencing fear will always eclipse love. And that's the way it works. Okay, so How does fear happen? Well, it comes from a raised with comparison. We compare ourselves to another. There's separation. There's division between people. I mean, we talk about races and political affiliations and belief systems and religion. And so we see all these differences, and that is the foundation for fear, because truthfully, the world underneath is loving. It's unity. It's we're all connected. It's we're all children of God. Have you ever heard the phrase, one man's trash is another man's treasure? Look at that perspective. One person that throws things away, I don't want that, this is a waste, whatever, is treasure to another person. Like all these phrases and mantras that we hear all the time are all perspectives. It's all perception. So I think you get that. Now here's the key. Two worlds cannot exist at the same time. What's that mean? Love and fear cannot exist in the same moment. It's impossible for these two worlds to overlap, because if you experience fear and hurt, you're not experiencing love. In love dissipates fear. So when you're in love, you don't have any fear. So two worlds cannot exist at the same time. When you focus on one, the other one disappears. And that's it. You can only experience one world at a time. By the way, you're making this choice every day, all day long. Fear and love, both are a choice. You are love, fear is learned. So the question is, what do you choose to believe? If you live what you believe, what are you choosing to believe? So you may say, hey, you know what? Fear is all around us. Bad things are happening all the time. Absolutely. Do I agree? There's things that are happening in the world. However, do you believe God is supreme and love always prevails? That means you're going to see beneath all the fear, beneath perceived evil. That means God is supreme, love always prevails. We're living in an ultimately loving universe. Do you believe that? Do you believe that unity is the highest consciousness and state of awareness? That we're all connected and people are just living at their level of consciousness? Hey, Mother Teresa saw that. Martin Luther King saw that. Gandhi saw that. You're like, well, that's who those people are. Hey, they're no different than we are. They just went through pain. They had a huge purpose. They wanted to end racism. They saw unity. They saw a world of love despite the racism, despite what other people perceived as evil. They saw the world as love. What did they choose? Isn't that amazing? And look at the impact that they made. So people wear the bracelet, WWJD, what would Jesus do? Well, here's what he would do. He would see love everywhere. He just wanted, the reason he got crucified, he threatened the Pharisees. He threatened religious control. So he spoke out to say, you can be loving. You don't have to follow these rules. You can have a relationship with God. That's what Jesus would do, would see love everywhere. So we can continue to witness the pain of humanity, or we can see what's happening underneath. And whatever choice that you make in the moment, you are choosing to live in that world. Isn't that amazing? Now, I read this, it was yesterday. Man, what a perspective. So I walked around all day yesterday. How can I see this with the love of God? And are there things that are upsetting? Absolutely. But then you come into a moment, you come into presence, you switch your mind, you see what's really underneath, and that every perceived evil is a perception. Even when supposedly bad things are happening, God always wins. You look at all the things in the world, what do you already know? God wins. What do you already know? You can't go against universal love. The curtain of people operating at a lower consciousness with greed, that care more about money, that are asking you to do things that are against your better health, that are actually causing people to die around the world. That will all be dissipated over time. So would you like to be able to search for that other world, the loving world that actually emanates from you? How do you do that? Well, first you ask for strength and wisdom from God to see that world. You be loving, you consciously make that choice. And I'm going to give you a few affirmations right now. Here's one. It is impossible for me to see two worlds. God, help me see and feel the love of the universe and God that is in me now in every situation. I see no value in the outside world. I find freedom and deliverance from the outside world and see with love the actual, real, loving world. I am grateful. Let's do that again. It's impossible to see two worlds. God, help me see and feel your love that is in me now in every situation. I see no value in the outside world. I find freedom and deliverance from the outside world to see with love in the actual real world that is loving, that exists in me now. I am grateful. How about that? What if we chose to say those affirmations, to believe that, to get in our body and actually not just see with eyesight, but to be able to see with insight? So we see with insight and we observe the outside world. Now imagine that. That's pretty intense. Listen to that again. We see with insight through our heart, through our spirit, a loving world. We observe with our eyesight. Sorry. We see with insight, we observe the outside world with our eyesight. What's that mean? That's not real. Meaning, like, there is a loving world underneath. And we pray with forgiveness, compassion, and empathy. And we operate with a higher consciousness, because that's how we change things in the world. So this is what I'm committing to living and committing to loving. I hope we can do it together. I really am saying this for me, because the way I can live it is if we teach it. I'm not claiming to be anybody other than a spirit seeking consciousness of our higher self to fulfill our purpose. If we can do that together, man, the impact we can make together will be truly life and world changing. Thank you so much. I love you guys. Please, please share this and go to yourmorepowerful.com. I went through that. By creating that is how I got to this place right now. But we're all here together. Love you guys. Bye.